that Jeannie is a little bit blocked behind you and Paula. And actually Paula's probably a little bit blocked too. So just the angle on the guys' side of the table is a little bit
Yeah,
difficult.
that's about the best we're gonna be able to get. We're trying to shoot a tiny laptop to do a broad screen.
Yeah,
So
this,
we're gonna
the
roll with
sound
it.
seems good.
So the plan is tonight, folks, with the tech, we're trying to do in-person and live stream. But Richard is recording this on our regular camera, and we're also recording it on the laptop. And the host laptop is sitting up by the projector screen. And if, when you speak, we hear you through the speakers by the projector. And we put PZM microphones around us. So, and Daisy chained them to the laptop. So you should hear us fairly well. Is that correct?
I'm having no problem hearing the audio.
Great. Okay. We are ready.
Okay, so we will come back to reconvene to open session, and Mark can give us a brief report out of closed session.
We discussed in closed session a couple of issues. We did not come to a resolution on either issue. And I believe it's the board's prerogative, as they will, to come back into a closed session after the fact. The request was to, after the regular meeting's over, is to go back into closed session to try and finish up.
Mr. Chavez, if you lead us in a flag salute, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We've got our flag salute. Is Tessa available for some WTA comments?
I sure am. Can you hear me? Do you have sound for me? Can you confirm?
That works fine right there, Tessa.
Thank you. Okay, hello. First of all, it's wonderful to see you in the library. That looks so normal. Also, I want to give a shout out to Jenny Wyatt's profile picture there that has the Essential Workers logo on it. That's awesome. I love it. Okay, so for the notes, one of the first things I'd like to share with everybody in the community, not just teachers, but anybody with, yeah.
Can you turn your video off while you're talking? And it should help your audio.
My pleasure. And I'll speak slowly.
Much better.
Okay. Okay, good deal. So CTA is holding a student debt cancellation webinar on May 13th at 4 o'clock. Student debt is a really big issue for especially our newer teachers and even some of our experienced ones. For example, I borrowed $24,000 for the teacher credential program. I still owe 60 even after student loan forgiveness. Are you hearing okay? I saw Mark laughing.
No, we do.
Sure.
We hear you. Paula's misbehaving.
I am.
All right.
I missed the day that you said.
Oh, Paula, stop, please.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
This is very nerve-wracking for me. Okay,
What time is that webinar?
so it's at 4 o'clock on May 13th. If anybody is interested in it, it is going to have the most current update from the Biden administration about what is happening with student debt relief. Contact me through my Tessa Ford at Willits Unified address. Next on my list, we had superintendent interviews. Thank you very much for allowing a member of WTA to sit in on that. We haven't been briefed by her, so we don't know how all of that went, but our thanks to Angela Ostrowski and for the school board for having her be part of that. Today is May 12th. It is CTA Day of the Teacher. And the theme for this year is cultivating minds and healing hearts. Colleagues at each site chose an Educator of the Year. And at Sherwood, they honored Lori Berghardt today. And when my camera was on, you could find me. At Sanhedrin, Yulia Richley. At Brookside, Devin Jones. At Blosser Lane, it was a tie between Allison Henson and Dawn McClellan. At Bethel Grove, Cameron Ludwig was voted Educator of the Year. And at Willits High School, Brian Bowles. Pictures forthcoming. All the teachers have worked very hard, and I want to commend everybody. It's kind of hard in this particular instance not to want to give everybody a trophy for this year. But we did want to especially honor ones that stood out for their work and commitment and support. Round of applause. I think Miss McClellan is here. I'm not sure how many of them are, but give them a air high five when you have a retiree coming up, Lori Berghardt. And so we're going to be honoring her with some sort of retirement recognition. Okay, we finalized 4 scholarships from WTA to dependents of WTA members. The scholarships are $500 each. They're being awarded to Micah Stamps, Claire Moyle, Martin Coughlin, and Jada Smith. Okay, so congratulations to those students as well. Okay, last on my agenda to speak about tonight is the district request to increase class size. This is a really tough one. WTA members want all of our kids back in the classroom. We want things to be normal, and parents want it, families want it, administrators want it, and that's all well understood. We found that safety and stability are overriding concerns for the remainder of this school year. Well, could you pause just a moment? Could I pause just a moment?
Certainly.
Which mouse is that? Thank you very much. The district wants to change or disregard the contractual obligations of our MOU, and that has consequences that we'd like to avoid. I'm not threatening. I'm saying that we can work this out or not. We surveyed our members, and here are some key points that I would like to share with the school board. The MOU was negotiated with the understanding that independent study students would remain independent study students for the remainder of the year. Mr. Westerberg said this at a school board meeting. He said it in our bargaining meetings, and we were told that teachers were hired specifically to teach the independent study students, and they had to remain in independent studies because a commitment had been made for that teacher. We weren't advised that class sizes would remain of the school year. Would you like me to stop so you can respond, Mr. Westerberg? Or
Nope.
do you want to wait till the
I'll
end?
be responding.
Okay, thank you. The MOU was negotiated to ensure safety, stability, and quality of the learning environment for the remainder of the 2020-21 school year. And that was every member's priority. So we have a few situations, like currently we have hybrid classes that are over class size limit. Teachers who volunteered to teach hybrid did so with the belief that they would just be keeping their class, their students, their roster. And instead, there was an influx of new students. That changed the dynamics that were happening in classrooms. Again, I'm sharing what has been shared with me. Okay, so. Okay, adding more students is not optimal for safety or stability. Again, this was emphasized over and over again. Distancing, all of that stuff. At one site, teachers and classes have had to move around to other classrooms to accommodate the roofing project, which has added to the challenge of keeping social and academic progress consistent. A campus lockdown was called for a potential shooter incident. A teacher went on maternity leave, which caused more student-teacher movement. A couple of positive COVID cases caused 2 entire classes and their teachers to quarantine for 10 days. This all happened in the span of 20 school days. Every effort is being made to maintain safety and stability, and there's enough challenge already, is what I heard over and over again in the comments. I also heard testing begins in the next 2 weeks at all the sites. Adding new students at this point in time would not be or readiness. And finally, as of today, there are 22 school days remaining in the school year. WTA members, by and large, do not think making more changes at this point is fair or wise. In summary, my bullet points: we met and negotiated an MOU for the transition to in-person learning with our focus on the students and their families, safe negotiable groups and lower class sizes so that we could keep our students safe and our classrooms open. 3, instead, what we got was immediate change, violating the agreement, packing students into classrooms, disrupting stable groups, and the thriving educational environments that they're trying to build. And of course, classes were shut down for quarantine. I believe at this point, people have said maybe the independent study teachers could go to in-person and take those students who need to come back. Maybe a new teacher could be hired to take those independent study students back. But I think there's other to solving this problem without vilifying teachers in the process. We're not the bad guys. We're trying to take care of our kids. We're trying to take care of our students and their learning and their stability. That's what I'm hearing on all that. So many celebrations, and I am prepared for any rebuttal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tessa. Let's see, let's move on to CSEA. Dan.
Hello, everyone. I'll turn my video off to try to help out. Am I being heard?
Yes.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on. I'd like to thank Jenny Wyatt. She was on the interview committee for the superintendent. I'm not quite exactly sure what happened because it's been kind of cloak and dagger. So I guess that's a good sign. And I was wondering if we were going to meet the new chap or lady or whoever it was tonight. But anyways, I think that's a great process. I'd like to thank Mark. It's like, man, there's some big shoes to fill, because I'll tell you what, he's leaving the place way better than when he got here. And that's a good sign. And he got good personnel in place. Next week is classified employee week. So it'd be great if everybody could thank classified staff. We got everybody, the bus drivers, like they're pulling their hair out because they're like on really weird, got to drive with so many kids, go here, go there, split the shift even a little weirder than they already split it before. You know, and I think it pans down all the way to secretaries, the aides, the cookhouse. Everything's kind of a little different, but everybody seems to be going along with it and working it out, which is really good. There's a lot of stuff going on around the district that the classified staff's doing. And I think I'll let Mark talk about all the projects and stuff like that, because that's kind of, you know, he's heading all that stuff up. We're just helping to make all those projects come to fruition. And I'd like to thank, you know, the classified staff as a whole. In a little editorial I'll put that the classified leaders, the union leaders, want to thank all classified personnel for standing tall in the time of need, honoring our commitments and serving the public. And I think that goes a long way, because everybody was there and it was great, and we proved we can do it, and we can continue to keep doing it. And that might be it. I'm sure there's more, but we'll talk again in a few days. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Let's see, we'll start with board comments, and let's go ahead and start with Paula.
It has been a really busy week, or from the weeks before that, even busier. But I don't know, we've been interviewing and going to a lot of reading and language acquisition meetings. And at this point, everything is just collecting information. So I don't have that much to say. I'm sure I'll find a way to interrupt later.
Jeannie.
It's nice to be back in the library at the Media Center at the high school and see everybody born here in person. Anyway, I'm really appreciative of all the efforts that the staff has made on behalf of doing their best on behalf of the kids. So anyway, my main comment has to do with something very simple today that happened in the time. I went and got in my hammock, and where I live, I can sort of
We can't hear you anymore.
Board, all audio is lost.
It looks like it might be on mute.
Anyway, it really pleased me to hear the kids playing at school again, and I realized that I hadn't heard that sound when the schools closed down last March, and up until the time that they went back into session, that the sound of kids playing at Brookside was silent, and it meant a lot to me to realize that I could hear the kids playing again at school. So I just wanted to say.
I forgot to thank teachers in classified. I know this is their next couple of weeks. And excuse me, I truly pay more attention to those groups probably than I pretty much else.
Go ahead, Robert.
Hello, everyone. I would like to extend my appreciation to the classified. So many times they're working behind the scenes, but they're so important to making education happen. And I appreciate the people we have. And there's just really good people out there in the classified. And thank you so much. Thank you so much. So many times you go unappreciated, but I thank you so much for your service. The other thing I'd like to bring up is that, like the children did for my colleague here, the site of the festivities and the coming festivities, whether it's prom or get ready for graduation or what's happened at the elementary and middle school, it really warms my heart that we're starting to get out of this COVID fog and things are starting to happen. So special thanks to all of you who make that happen.
I'd like to echo Robert's sentiments with respect to CSEA and to WTA, and congratulations to all of the Day of the Teacher kind of awards for all those individuals. I wrote down most of them. Again, congratulations. I want to also point out that many of you have been very flexible and have done your very best to do right by the kids, and that is very, very much appreciated. And continued flexibility. It's been a strange year. We've all had to do things that we, quite frankly, didn't want to do, and hopefully many of those things will be back to normal by the fall, or at least something more resembling normal by the fall. So, Diane.
Teachers, Teacher Appreciation Week, and next week is Classified Week. And I'm thanking the teachers also for remembering last week to get those Mother's Day presents out that I remember doing. Thank you for that, and trying to get us back to normal, getting the kids. It's nice to hear them skipping as they leave school, or it's nice to get back to normal. And there's a lot of scholarships that we're reading right now, and I've talked to a couple of seniors that are glad that things are happening at the high school and the way the graduation is going to be this year. So everybody's being positive about everything. It's really nice to have that. So, yeah, everybody's doing a wonderful job at every site. And it's mainly for the students, and the students are just doing a wonderful job being so flexible. So, thank you.
I'd like to add just a couple more things. As many of you guys know, we have been working on a proposal to determine what resources we might need to help us make sure that all of our kids, K3, K5, are reading at grade level as they move through. Nancy Runberg, Kathleen Crossman, and a host of their teachers, as well as others throughout the district, have been working literally as many as 4 meetings a week for the last several weeks, working on determining what they believe those resources might be needed. We have a preliminary draft of those resources, and now we'll be working within a very short time to try and determine exactly how much of that we can afford to put in place, and evaluating that proposal and kind of determining what our next steps are. The next thing I'd like to touch on real briefly is our search for a superintendent. As most of you know, our superintendent is leaving us at the end of this school year, heading back to Michigan. And many of us are going to be very sorry to see him leave. However, we are also working diligently to find a suitable replacement for his position. There were, I believe, a total of 8 applicants. Our HR folks screened those applicants and determined that 4 would go to the screening committee. That screening committee was held on Monday. They reduced that number of applicants down to 2, which they sent to the board for interviews. One of those applicants declined or bowed out of that process because he wasn't willing to relocate. That left us with 1 applicant to interview, and we've had that interview today. We have not reached a decision with respect to that interviewee, and we will be continuing to discuss that individual as we conclude with our closed session after this open session meeting. So hopefully by tomorrow, we should have made a decision with respect to that individual. That's all I've got for that.
Well, unlike my WTA colleagues, I'm not going to debate our dispute at a board meeting. It's simply to say, I don't buy the vast majority of the statement. And on top of that, there is a difference between independent study and distance learning, which seems not to be understood. There is also ed code that says students may not be forced to be an independent study. There is also a contractual MOU we did over health and safety. Those were not concerns they presented. And on top of that, we did not establish class sizes in the MOU. We established cohort sizes because of COVID, not class sizes. Class sizes are in the collective bargaining. So I will continue the process, and I will use whatever means necessary to put these 20 kids back into school. And I just want to say, I am super pleased and proud for the vast majority of teachers who have been accommodating additional kids, whether it's hybrid, whatever they're doing a great job of accommodating more than we had even the number to do. This is a dispute between the management and the executive group of WTA, not the teachers. The issue for me is very simple. These are kids who need to be accommodated. 13 of those 20 kids are Hispanic and are on independent study for family reasons and issues where our distance learning wasn't even an option, wasn't working. We must accommodate these kids. So I will be doing whatever I need to accommodate it. And that's all I really need to say about it. I'm not going to have a discussion about it at an open board meeting. That's not where you resolve issues. So beyond that, I'm very pleased with the work that especially we've been doing with kids getting back in. We've had 0 issues with COVID issues. The 2 issues they referred to were handled perfectly by the staff, administration, and testing. They did exactly what they're supposed to, and it worked really well. And I applaud them for getting in, taking care of business, and keeping everybody safe. They did exactly what you're supposed to do. That has been the case all along. Rapid testing is in place. We have very few staff who are rapid testing. We only have about 7 teachers every week who even test. That tells me they're not concerned because their environments are safe and conducive. We continue to trend well. We continue to do the right thing. Parents and kids have been very compliant with the mask, have been very compliant with the rules. And I'm really pleased. I took our candidate around today, showed him all the facilities, everybody doing the right thing, kids being separated, wearing masks, doing all the right things. I'm pleased and proud that we're able to continue to go to school even during this pandemic. And as it gets better, we need to get better along with it. So I'm really pleased about that. In regards to construction and bond projects, we have, I think I have a list of 20 things on my board that are either in the process or in the hamper or done already. The high school parking lot will be the next one that gets started on Thursday. The roof at Blosser is about 80% done. As soon as they finish there, They're off to Bechtel, Brookside, and the high school to do the roofs. By mid-June, we will have all the roofs being worked on. By the end of July, all of the roofs of our buildings will be redone. So we'll stop taking water in. Now we can start to work on everything else. And so I'm really pleased about that. The heating and cooling is going to get resolved in every place we have, plus some reserves. We've been able to use the COVID funding, and I've been able to use that funding because it clearly says in there to improve ventilation in rooms. Well, we have lots of old windows that don't open. We have really old, expensive gas pack and electrical units that heat and cool classrooms that need to get bumped up to newer standards. And so we have those on order. Those will get put in place. Our maintenance people are doing the bulk of all of these projects. We're not sending it out to everybody to do stuff for us. They've been working hard, getting stuff done. Our custodial staff has been super flexible with hours and times as we change times. We start high school at noon and go till 3, and the elementaries are going in the morning. Bus drivers are dropping kids off and going picking them back up. We've done a good job of trying to accommodate all that. And it's hard, but it's good because they're doing the right thing. We're doing the right thing for kids. I'm really pleased about also that our staff, our administrative group, we've got a lot of work to do. Between now and July 1, we have to have an LCAP. We have to have a learning loss mitigation plan. We have to have our bond money spent. Everything like that will be wrapped up and ready for us. Your new superintendent will not have contract negotiations, won't have bond issues, won't have any of that stuff. We'll be ready to go. We're really looking forward. I've told all the principals to prepare for a normal school year next year, where we go from 8 to 3 and we actually have a real lunch on campus and the whole 9 yards. So, unless your data goes south, I'm anticipating that's where we're going to be. So, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. We're at action items. Do we have any public comments on the consent agenda items?
I just have a question. Number 3, I thought WTA said that they had a person to retire this coming year, this June. Is that the case? I missed that. I only know there's a district office person and a custodial person.
I'm not aware. Lori Burkhart, yeah.
Lori Burkhart is retiring. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We also have another Willits retirement, although it's not on our books. Okay, but Suzanne Kidwell is retiring,
Oh,
and she has been, is it ROP? Is that the acronym? She has been an ROP teacher for so long, we even forgot she was ROP. We just assumed she was ours. We treat her as ours. She's done a great job. She's retiring.
Mr. Westerberg, Linda Bailey is retiring. She's a custodian of Bechtel Grove.
Yeah, that's the
She is
custodian.
retiring.
Yeah, Paula was talking about a custodian, it's Linda Bailey, who's
Oh.
served Bechtel very well.
I believe actually Laura Sleeper is actually officially on June, end of June as well.
Yeah, Laura's July 1, she is fully retired.
Okay. Any other comments on the consent agenda? Have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further comments, discussion? All for the vote. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
And we are at item C, approval of corrected confidential classified salary schedule.
To do an intro on that?
Sure, Nikki, go ahead. No, you go ahead, we're fine.
So this one is really just a cleanup so that we don't have any issues with PERS. we had a change that happened to the salary schedule in 2006. And at that time, I think the intention was that they were trying to grandfather the existing rate that was being paid for current employees and lowering the rate by 5% for any incoming employees. And that piece that was maintained to grandfather was put on the salary schedule and called a responsibility factor. And now we're being told by PERS that that could no longer be counted towards this person's PERS, which was not what the bargaining intention was at that time. So we have revised the salary schedule so that the current employee will continue at the same rate that they've been getting paid, while still holding in place the reduced level for any future hires. So you'll see on the salary schedule, it splits out based on folks hired before a certain date and folks hired after a certain date. And it removes that responsibility. There's no fiscal impact to this. The actual paid rate remains the same. It's just which category it gets reported to PERS in.
In short, our payroll person, who does a fantastic job, by the way, is on a different pay scale based on a contractual bargaining agreement where there was a responsibility factor added to grandfather her in. That was not showing on the chart. It was noted, but not showing. PERS wants to see it on a chart. So we put it on a chart and says, here's the date.
Yeah, PERS has become extremely, and STRS as well, extremely particular that it must be represented in a cell on the salary schedule as opposed to a overall statement that applies to the whole salary schedule. So therefore, we just had to create the cells and break it up by steps as opposed to showing that generic statement of the 5%.
We only have 2 people in the confidential classified, and this has no financial impact. We've already been paying. It's just documenting for PERS that we're paying.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
I'll vote to approve.
Second,
Second.
any discussion at the board? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, we're at item D, discussion support of AB 839 CTE funding. This was something I requested to be put on the agenda at the last board meeting. AB 839 is a measure that's working its way slowly through our state legislature. The idea behind AB 839, if you look at the history of CTE funding for the last 4 or 5 years, it's been limited to about $150 million a year spread across the state. AB 839 is looking to increase that to a minimum of $300 million a year and have it specific to CTE funding. In other words, that it would be those monies would be earmarked for CTE only, and we probably have a few more. Basically, you wouldn't be able to use that for any other kind of fund, any other uses. Apparently, right now, some of that AB 839 money, that $150 million, can be utilized outside of CTE. So they're trying to tighten that up a little bit and make sure that it actually stays with CTE. I have mixed feelings on that part of the proposal, only because I'm also a proponent of local control, and I feel like how we would like to utilize those funds really should be left up to the district. But I do understand why the logic is put in there so that those funds would be, targeted towards maintaining or expanding CTE programs in California schools. Ukiah is a strong proponent of AB 839, and I'm thinking that it would be wise for us to draft a letter to our legislators supporting AB 839 to increase that funding to $300 million and also earmark those monies for CTE.
Let me chime in a little bit on I totally agree 110% about it ought to be local control. However, you're in a district where not this year, but when we have a normal graduation, our last normal graduation, 68% of the students who walked at graduation were CTE enrolled. We have a very robust CTE program, and it's even growing. There's plasma cutters coming in. Carolyn Bakewell, our art teacher, congratulations to Carol. She got CTE endorsed, I found out today. We have a couple performing arts people who are also going to get CTE endorsed. And all of our programs, from instruction to health services to the business. Mike has hired a replacement for Suzanne Kidwell. She is CTE endorsed. It is an endorsement the teachers get that allows us to get this funding. And your high school is going to have 8 or 9 people who are eligible to help us spike that funding. And in Willits, it's really important to have CTE. Sanhedrin is designed around getting the state minimum credits necessary to graduate and having a CTE endorsement. You have to have both to get out. So this is a big part of what we do. We're still one of the high schools who have metal shops and wood shops and ag farms and all kinds of stuff for these kids that are real practical hands-on jobs. So this is a big deal for us. We are not one of the suburban schools where our goal is to get everybody off to a 4-year school. That's not who we are, and our kids need this kind of funding. So.
Agreed. So what I'm looking for is the board interested in supporting sending letters off to our legislators to support AB 839?
But I'm curious, you know, kind of more or less how much money Willits receives of this 150 million?
I know it's changed somewhat. I might not know. Nikki might know, give us a little bit better.
I usually don't bring the numbers up easy, but it seems to me we get what, 30,000 in
A few years ago, it was as low as 12.
So I'm not clear, to be honest with you, which of our pots of funding are funded by the AB 839. When it comes to me, it is titled differently. So, I mean, we have various grants related to CTE, and then through the LCFF, there is the CTE add-on for the 9 through 12 grade span. I'm not sure which piece would be related to AB 839.
I believe this is CTIG, the CTIG grant.
CTIG. So that's actually fluctuated a lot over the years, and because it is based on a set amount at the state, and then it depends on who applies, we have had years as high as almost 100,000. We've had years as low as 30,000. I believe our current grant, I want to say, is around 50,000.
And that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to solidify a higher number in the budget that can only go to tech.
Right.
And you have to apply, and one of the ways you apply is to actually have teachers who are certified, which Mike has been working hard to get them all who can do it, be certified. And the more kids you have certified, the more kids who get CTE endorsed, the better opportunity you have for funding. And so there's some really unique stuff you're going to have, like a new plasma cutter. I don't remember what the other piece of equipment was. What's the piece of equipment that bends and moves all the steel? It's a fabricator. It's a steel fabricator.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, but those are all part of what kids need to learn. We put in the welders that they use at Metal FX. We have those type of welders because that's where our kids can work.
So this CTE is going to include the FFA and performing arts and all the kind of vocational hands-on activities.
There's a broad range of CTE, of disciplines that fall under CTE.
Oh, okay.
But just to clarify, it doesn't include FFA, it includes the
Oh.
ag department.
Just.
There's a
add,
difference between ag instruction and FFA.
Yeah.
I can be an FFA and not necessarily ag certified in ag. So you can be an FFA teacher, but not be a CTE endorsed teacher.
So it could be your wood shop, could be your building and
Yep.
trades, could be cooking or culinary, health education.
For us, it's the medical.
Auto shop, a variety of things that were here.
If we bring back the home ec or whatever.
Correct.
we call it, that it include more than cooking. It would all be covered. in this.
It's called family consumer science. And we also have some unique ones because they consider band, art, performing arts, drama as career paths. And so our band teacher's getting certified. Carolyn just got certified as an art teacher because kids actually could learn the skills there and go work in art and produce things themselves. So
And not necessarily have either a 2-year or even a 4-year degree specific to that. But firefighting, for example, is another one that can fall into that. There's a wide range of things that can fall under the CTE program, but it still boils down to is the state has slowly started to recognize that these educational paths, other than the ones that take you to a 2-year or 4-year college institution, are still very important, especially in rural areas like our own. You know, the vast majority of our kids that graduate don't end up completing a 2-year or even a 4-year college degree. Instead, they fall into our workforce. Many of them, especially until just a few years ago, many of them were graduating our high schools with minimal to no skills whatsoever. So the state's recognizing now that that wasn't necessarily a good plan. And maybe we need to find a way to make sure these kids can actually walk away from high school, often with no intention of going to furthering their academic education per se, but at least be able to walk out and have skills to be able to put bread on the table. People need to be able to work.
And for a child to be CTE endorsed, they have to take an introductory class, another class, and then a capstone class. So for an example, kids take woodworking, they take construction, they take advanced construction. We have kids who get multiple CTE endorsements. And so because you have a trimester high school, you can fit these blocks in and get them taken. And so when we moved to that schedule, our CTE numbers went up dramatically because they now have the ability to get those. They want those classes. And so if anywhere we have class size issue, it's in our CTE elected programs. And so it's a good thing for the district. There's nothing wrong with the kid getting college ready and having a CTE endorsement.
Exactly.
And it can happen in our school. And
So
it does.
if you look at the California Department of Education website and Google CTE, career technical education, the California State Department of Education has 15 career pathways. And I think we have 10 and 15.
We're about to go to 11.
Right, so the ones from the state are agricultural, natural resources, arts, media, entertainment, building, construction, trades, business, finance, education, child development and family services, energy, environment, utilities, engineering and architecture, fashion and interior design, health science and medical technology, hospitality, tourism, recreation, information and communication technologies, manufacturing and product design, marketing, sales and services, public services and transportation. So we have 10 of those career pathways.
The ideal circumstance is that the student attends our high school, accomplishes all their A to G requirements so that they've got the ticket to the dance, if you will, to go to a 2-year or 4-year college. And they get CTE certified in a variety of different pathways and graduate high school. That gives them the options to do whatever they basically want. It also gives them for those kids that simply aren't ready to go to a 4-year college, and want to put it off for a year or two and enter the workforce, there's an opportunity to kind of get their feet grounded first and then move on to higher education if they choose to do so. On the other hand, they've got an opportunity also with CTE endorsements to enter the workforce and seek a career there. So
The next thing we need to add to our repertoire is culinary. It's the one that we do not have that would be really nice.
it was one of my favorite in high school.
I was much more of a better sampler of the culinary than I was a participant in it, but the reality is that's a skill. It's a life skill. And we have lots of restaurants. We have lots of hospitality management jobs that kids really need to get trained on. It's a facility issue to get the facility, but that's a one-time get the facility and then maintain it. But it's also finding the teacher who has that skill set. That's a tough endorsement to find, but it is one that if you could add to your repertoire, that would be the one that you would seek out.
So if you're CTE endorsed as a student, does that give you a plus if you want to go to the automotive school in Arizona? or wherever?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And if you didn't have it, it's harder to get in. Is that how it works? Or is it?
I don't know if
just-
it's harder, but it says that you have an interest and you proved in your high school work that you have an interest in an aptitude. And
But it
when
also
kids-
plays a big role when you're looking for a job.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a job on a framing crew, for example, and you've been through the construction class here and the CTE endorsed you in the construction class, then they know you at least you have an idea what to do with a hammer and saw and framing.
And there were seniors here that had already started our program that's on those things like that, you know, it's just, I didn't know how far out it reached.
The ultimate for CTE is the capstone may actually be a placement at work.
Yeah.
So, for example, our kids who have been in welding and even advanced welding, for them, we actually have a student who goes to Metal Effects and for a couple hours a day and weld. And so that's the ultimate in career pathway. When our kids graduate, we recognize our kids with a green cord, and we tell when they walk across the stage, they are CTE endorsed in whatever they are. We put a lot of pride in that because it really does give you more than a piece of paper to read. I mean, to be honest, most people don't realize you can go to community college without even a high school diploma. So getting off to go to Mendo, every kid who walks out the door, even if they don't have a diploma, can still go there. Our goal is to give them the basic skills, if that's all they want, but at least give them a skill so they can do something.
So we'll work on writing a couple letters to our, on behalf of the board and the district to support AB 839.
So are you going to write a letter and then sign it from the board, or do you want each board member to write their own letter?
I would be tickled to death if each of you would write your own letters, but I'll certainly do one on behalf of the board.
It might be impactful to have one from the whole board.
Thank you. Let's see, we're convening item number E, convene public hearing, pupil textbook and instructional materials adoption at 5:30 p.m. Not certain what time we are.
Oh,
We're a little past.
you're off schedule a little bit. You're at 6:08.
We're at the high school social studies grades 9, 12, the Houghton Mifflin Harcourt for textbook for adoption. And the public is advised the textbook will be on display at the Willits Unified School District. And do we have any comments or questions about that textbook adoption?
I'll have Jeannie go in a minute, but to let you know that we do these in cycles. And so now we're at social studies. I will also tell you that Bechtel is looking at their series. They're deciding if they're doing something new or updating what they have. They don't have to do the same series as the high school. They can. They're looking at that, and they're also looking at their current series, which they happen to like. But in the social studies world, when President Clinton said, it's time you might want to get a different book. So our high school social studies folks have sat patiently for 2 or 3 years as we've gone through COVID and other issues and replaced out elementary language arts and math that are super expensive. It's their turn. And they're looking at a good series, and it is available for the public to come and look at. It's part of that open session where we notify folks, and if they want to have comments on it, they can. And we have a trustee board member who always comes to the district office and looks through any new text. So Jeannie?
So
You're on.
Mark found me hidden yesterday in the district office, looking through these 4 textbooks. I get a lot out of looking at the textbooks. It tells me a lot about the curriculum, different that is being covered in different grade levels. And it gives me an understanding of the focus, how the focus is changing and that kind of thing. Anyway, I got a lot of enjoyment out of looking through these 4 texts. And I was really pretty pleased with the textbooks as I looked at them. So I'm glad that the high school is getting some updated textbooks.
Dynamite. Any comments from the gallery?
I have a question. This is Dawn. Does the new textbooks represent lots of diverse perspectives from history?
Yeah, it certainly does. They certainly do.
Thank you.
And I also wanted to add that I think one of the most important things that school districts do is produce good citizens, involve citizens. I think the teaching of these of this subject matter is really, really important.
We're at item 13, I believe. Public comments for items not on the agenda. While we're mulling that over, I'm curious to know from the gallery, does this format with our microphones and so forth, is that working okay for everybody?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, I've got a nod from Dawn.
It may work a little better if it wasn't as many microphones, maybe a couple fewer, because it seems like they're all trying to compete for wordage.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Yeah,
I agree that we can see you all and we can hear you all, and it's a good format.
One thing we might try and do with microphones is Richard and I might look to see if you have a press button microphone that you engage the microphone to talk. That might be I'm hoping you're not doing this forever, COVID and all this, but the one thing that all the mics are active constantly. And so if you had a mic where you had to push the button to talk, it would shut that off and it would be a cleaner sound. We'll look and see what's available, but I don't want to go spend $3,000 for 2 more board meetings of doing this, because I'm hoping in August you're doing real board meetings.
Yeah, same here. Thank you.
Does it look like there's more, well, I guess none of us can see. Anybody who can see all the people who attend? Does it look like you have as many people still attending? I mean, I would think a goal is to get tons of people.
Actually, in Zoom meetings, we have more people in attendance than we do in any normal board meeting we've ever had.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to connect. And I'm not sure that it might not be one of those carryovers from COVID of actually having the streaming video and people able to connect and stuff like that.
You have 26 people in attendance.
Exactly. That's what I just checked.
Oh.
Which is something you guys, we haven't been able to see because it's not listed up there.
And none of us are in there except for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I can say one thing that I think is really good about this format is that we are seeing you respond to each other and not to screens.
Right.
Well, I can see this format actually being maybe valuable, especially for people who can't attend. Continuing this kind of format, into the future, even for regular board meetings in August, September, assuming we're, because one thing we have learned from this is a way to project our presence out beyond this room, which is a good thing.
Yeah, plus, I mean, I agree 100% with that. I was kind of hoping that's what would happen. And I also would think that there's got to be a button somewhere on those computers that can translate what happened into another language. It my preference being Spanish. But, you know, then at least you can include the majority of everyone who wants to come. There are still out loud, but it would be written up, you know, like the TV does, right? Or you don't have any capability. Is it real expensive? Uh-huh. Oh,
When
okay.
you download it from YouTube, you can ask for a different language and it'll translate it for you in your.
Okay, that's,
So if you were on YouTube and you got our video,
oh, okay.
you could say, download the video. I want to watch the video. When you download it, you can pick your language for these things.
Okay,
It
so,
takes longer because it's got to process the audio. But you can download board meetings that are videotaped in YouTube.
And I suppose we have a robot voice.
well, you wouldn't hear a voice chicken.
So
Yeah,
just closed captions.
see, that's what I heard, and if that were the case,
I was thinking we're going to hear Siri all over again.
they always get broadcasted or uploaded or whatever right away, like you could make a date that says, okay, on the 13th of every month. But I was born before that. Well, okay, the 15th of every month. Then you can always download this meeting in Spanish or whatever it
The
is.
goal is for me, when I
Yeah.
record these, when we stop our meeting, it's recording on my screen and converting it to a video. And so I come in the next morning early and then I just upload it to YouTube. So generally it's there the next day that I do it. It just depends on timing, processing the video. It's a different scenario when you're doing the camera. The camera goes through a hard drive. The hard drive has to be brought onto a machine. The machine loads it out to YouTube. But when you Zoom, remember that. It won't help you because it's.
I can appreciate
Yeah, I
that.
know.
Okay, we will close the public hearing on the textbooks unless there's any further comments. And we'll move on to item 14, items for the next regular board agenda.
I'd like to bring up, since I never got a conclusion, to the board member budgets that we talked about. I know that they were set up mostly to figure out a price and do for, you know, education for the education.
I believe that Nikki was going to work on putting together a policy for us.
Oh, okay.
And
And
so she
so,
was going to do a bit of research on that, and so it will come back to us.
oh, okay. Well,
And I believe Nikki and I had a conversation where we think of 5,000 as a budget line item.
you know,
Yeah, we just need to put together a policy that basically says the kinds of things we could spend that money on, so that it actually gets utilized appropriately.
Because we do that now. I mean, when you take classes, like when Jeannie takes a class, we make sure we cover. You guys need to do professional development and attend meetings and do those kind of things that help our district.
can we also talk about a retreat or whatever? I know the board used to do retreats as.
In fact, Jeannie has brought that up, and I've been remiss in bringing that forward. So yeah,
Oh,
if you want to talk, you want to put that on the next board agenda?
I wouldn't mind. And, oh, the next one is June, right?
Yeah.
So that it's just before the graduation. Maybe, I saw a thing that said we were meeting in July as well.
Well, hold on. Nikki, we do need to have a meeting at the end of May, okay?
Yeah, we do need to have a meeting at the end of May to adopt the ELO plan, the Extended Learning Opportunities Plan.
We need an ELO meeting. And does the LCAP have to be before that?
The LCAP is on the same cycle as the budget. So we will be doing a hearing in June and an adoption at the second meeting in June.
But we do have to have, I can't even say ELO without laughing, but we have to do our ELO meeting and make sure we have that. And no Jeff Lynn there.
So I was thinking that retreat would be better with the new superintendent
Yeah,
in place.
I would recommend that you do your retreat when you have a new superintendent. That makes the most sense.
Okay.
And if you want suggestions on where, and do you want somebody to come and conduct an in-service type thing? Do you want it just to be open? What do you want to do with it? I can give you suggestions. I know folks who do that.
We've traditionally had people come in.
I was hoping the board could do a book study together.
Yeah, I think it might be a bad idea. There's a number of pretty interesting texts. In fact, one that I distributed to the board recently. Highly recommend.
There's also a book the California School Board Association puts out on the Brown Act. It's not too big. It might be beneficial.
So we'll wait until we have a new superintendent to talk more closely about a retreat. And like you said, we have to meet one more time. We want to check schedules now for a meeting date later in March or later in May, excuse me.
As late in May as we can get.
While you guys are checking your schedules, can I just remind everybody to look up on your way home? The senior portraits are going up on the signs down Main Street. They're beautiful. Check them out.
And thanks for that, Jenny. And by the way, you can thank the National Forest Service for part of that. By them being here and renting our facility, we were able to purchase a bucket. That is our people putting them up. And so we are in the morning before traffic gets going. Ted's basically the one up in the bucket truck and he's been putting them up. He'll be done tomorrow.
Great.
Well, great.
So it was mentioned to me when I was in the district office yesterday that May 26th.
I'm looking at 26th as well. I'm open.
That's my husband's birthday, but he can celebrate the day before or day after. They may not want to celebrate.
Nice of him to be flexible.
Yeah.
You guys are booking my weekends to get these plans done. We're going to plan to do a plan to make our plan.
Follow 26 work for you?
Yeah, I'm just thinking why that seemed like a date that I have 76 minutes, but not written down, so.
Okay, 26. Do we want to start at 4 o'clock as usual for closed session? Or is it the reserved 4 o'clock? And if no closed session happens, we'll go at 5.
We should reserve it. At this point, we don't have a closed session.
So we will plan on the 26th, 4 o'clock, possibly 5 o'clock.
Kind of like we did.
Yes. Okay, I would, at this point in time, we're not going to adjourn. I'd like to recess back into closed session. Okay, and so we will close the regular meeting and we're going to return back to closed session.
There will be no action, by the way, taken in closed section. And so the report out from that will be that we just came out of closed session at the time. We don't have an action item on the agenda to come out of closed session with an action vote. So there'll be a meeting with just a timestamp of where we came up.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will make sure you got all that.